Dr. Veritas Ratio. Is he free because he's bad? I don't think so. Hello everyone, thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Mary and today we have to talk about the free 5-star character, Dr. Ratio. Now, a lot of people have been saying that he was going to be bad and that's why he's free. I don't believe in a bad 5-star character, at least not in honkaistarrail. I'll have you know my D here is very useful alongside Nuriet Farina and Frank Shogun. He's arrogant and silly. I love arrogant, silly men in video games. He's a very follow-up attack centric character. That's going to be where most of his damage comes from. Another thing that I really appreciate about his kit is this bonus ability here. This is the first one you can unlock, where he increases his own crit rate and crit damage. He's going to increase his own crit rate by a maximum of 15% and his crit damage by a maximum of 30%, which is great. And that's going to be for the amount of debuffs on the target. That's the other thing with him. Very debuff centric. Now, he's not going to do the debuffing himself, but he's going to rely on an ally doing the debuff. So we're thinking Welt, Silverwolf, Gwenaifen, Pela, Luca, bunch of Nihility characters that are going to be very useful with him. And basically the way that he works is every time he does his skill, first of all, he's going to deal a certain percentage of his attack, which is not the highest. For comparison, at level 10, Sela is going to deal like 220. At level 10 for his skill, Dr. Ratio in comparison is going to deal 150% of his attack. So it's not as much, but at level 10 for his talent, it's going to be a total of 270% of his attack. Now, this follow-up attack is going to always be triggered by his skill, or a special thing with his ultimate. We're going to get into that in a second, but basically how this works is he has a 40% fixed chance of launching the follow-up attack after using his skill on any target. However, for every debuff that the enemy target has, there's an additional 20% chance of launching the follow-up attack. So it takes only 3 debuffs to reach a 100% chance, and he's going to launch it. And it shows you the number, so you don't have to do the math yourself, so that's really fun. But it's mostly going to follow his skill, so actually this damage does kind of add up. In comparison to Sela, it sounded really bad initially when I said it. At full level, a follow-up attack does more damage than Sela's skill, for example. I'm comparing with Sela because she's a very classic hunt character. I find her easy to use as a comparison, and a lot of people think she's very good, so that's why. Now, his ultimate, I keep talking about it, but what do it do? At level 10, his ultimate is going to deal 240% of his attack to a single target enemy. Everything he does is single targeted, by the way, but it's going to also inflict them with Wise Man's Folly. What that does is the next time an ally attacks the target with Wise Man's Folly, Dr. Ratio will launch his follow-up attack to that target, and this can happen a total of twice. This will only affect the most recent target of Ratio's ultimate. His other fun traces are about reducing effect res for 2 turns, and once the target has 3 debuffs or more, for every debuff, he's going to deal 10% more damage to a maximum of 50%, which is actually really good. I found it made a big difference between the moment I unlocked it and afterwards, because I was like, why is he doing so little damage? This helped a lot. So little damage. I'm not done building him, and this is the ass cheek relics that I have. So basically what all of this means is you're going to be using his skill a lot. You're going to be using it on whichever enemy is the most debuffed, and it's going to trigger his follow-up attack. So the priorities here, definitely your talent first, because that's truly where most of the damage will be coming from. I would say skill second. Maybe for every 1 or 2 you give the talent, give 1 to the skill because you're going to be using it a lot. Ultimate is like right behind the skill in terms of importance because it's also a big damage dealer for him. It's just you're not going to be using it as often because it's the ultimate. And last, basic attack. Obviously. Don't leave it behind because, like, obviously you're gonna need it at some point, but you know, you can stop at like 3, 4 for a little while. Now for the light cones, obviously his signature Baptism of Pure Thought is going to be the best one for him. It gives him crit damage for every debuff the enemy target has, increased crit damage, disputation effect after using the ultimate, which increases damage as a general thing and allows follow-up attack to ignore 24% of the defense. It's a light cone that's really only compatible with him. However, Topaz's light cone, Worrisome Blissful, is going to be good for him. That's going to be your second best option, but if you have it, I feel like you probably have Topaz, so leave it on her. Other than that, for the 5-star light cones, cruising on the Stellar Sea is going to be a classic. I like this one because it increases crit rate, so that's going to be really good. Sleep Like the Dead is also good. This does specify basic attack or skill, but you're going to be using his skill before his follow-up attack anyway, so I think it's fine, because if this triggers, it's going to end up applying to the follow-up attack, I think. The difference between Cruising in the Stellar Sea and Sleep Like the Dead, if you have both, I think it's going to come down to which one is already in use. And do you need crit damage or do you need crit rate? For 4-star light cones, he is a bit of a whack-ass character. There's not really like hunt 4-star cards that are related to follow-up attacks. Subscribe for more is a no. Okay, because that's for basic attack and skill. That's not where his damage comes from, so don't do that. Very rare thing is about to happen. I'm actually going to recommend the pay to win one. If you're gonna give it to anyone, I think you should give it to him, because crit rate. But if you don't have it, which you shouldn't, I'm turning into a hater. If you don't have that one, I think the next best thing would be Only Silence Remains, because this is also going to increase crit rate. Other than that, River Flows in Spring, that's a very accessible one for now, because it's in the Forgotten Hall shop. If you have Topaz and you don't have her signature light cone, leave this on Topaz. Swordplay can be good, just make sure, you know, obviously target the same person every time. For the 3-star light cones, Arrows is going to be the first one that you want for crit rate. Afterwards, Adversarial, Darting Arrow, both have to do with defeating the enemy, so kind of go with what you want. For relics, listen to me. Listen, I know you heard follow-up attack and you thought, oh, a follow-up attack character, I'm gonna put the follow-up attack kit on him, and you won't. You're not gonna do that. And let me tell you why. The way the follow-up attack kit works is that it increases the attack by 6% for every time the follow-up attack deals damage. This effect is removed the next time the wearer uses a follow-up attack. This means, for example, you know how a character, they do an attack, but sometimes depending on how they attack, it hits more than once, and you see like damage numbers more than once. It goes, you know. This is what this is referring to. So if you have Topaz, she shoots, basic attack, it counts as a follow-up attack. It's going to give only 1 stack of this, 1 stack of increased attack. However, if it's Numby that goes, counts as a follow-up attack, because it is a follow-up attack, he's going to go and it's going to hit a couple times, and that's where the stacks are going to stack up. However, next time a follow-up attack is used by this character, it's going to reset, so it's not going to add up. For a character like Ratio, this is not useful. He throws a chuck and he goes, it only hits once, so you're only gonna get a 6%, and really you could do better. You could do better, and you deserve better. So let's talk about better. What I would recommend to you is 4-piece Wastelander of Banditry Desert. First of all, 10% imaginary damage, love that. When attacking debuffed enemies, oh, we talked about that. That's his thing, he attacks debuffed people. It's going to increase crit rate by 10% and against imprisoned enemies, crit damage by 20. So that's good. That's good. That's all I gotta tell you. You could do 2-piece Wastelander and 2-piece Ash Blazing Grand Duke if you wanted to, for both the imaginary damage boost and the follow-up attack boost. That could be good as well. For planner ornaments, I think he's one of the few characters right now who can make the best use out of Inner Salsodo. You're going to get a boost for the ultimate and a boost for the follow-up attack, so that's good. A lot of characters that we have right now who have a follow-up attack don't do damage with their ultimate. The other one you could go for, I see people recommending this. So the other one you could do is Space Sailing Station. For once in our lifetime, we are not interested in Rutilant Arena, which is great because I'm not saying this name again for this video. Inner Salsodo is also really fun if you have Jabard, or maybe even March, or maybe even the Trailblazer, because you've been farming this. Oh, you've been farming this. If you have a good Inner Salsodo, I hope you kept it. So in the grand scheme of things, here's 3 options for you. 1, you're early in the game. You're gonna go with Arrows for crit rate, or you're gonna go with River Flows in Spring, or Only Silence Remains. Whichever one you have highest superimposition on. For the relics, you're gonna go for Musketeer of Wild Wheat 4-piece, because that's just the better option. Early in the game, you kind of have to choose between Thief of Shooting Meteor and Musketeer of Wild Wheat. Musketeer is going to be your DPS character. Thief is going to be anything else. You're gonna go with Space Sealing Station for the ornaments, because again, that's what you have. In the early game, Space Sealing Station is for your DPS characters, and Fleet of the Ageless is for pretty much anyone else. Hope that helps. Next, body, attack, boots attack, rope attack. Hope you have a good time. And your next worry is finding a debuffer. If you're early in the game, I kind of recommend Gwynaifen, Luca, or Paela if you have those. Hope you have fun. See you in a couple levels. Option 2 is going to be E0 S0. You have the character, because we all do now, but you don't have his light cone. You're going to go with Cruising in the Stellar Sea or Sleep Like the Dead. If you cannot do either of those ones, you're going to do Return to Darkness. If you're a sellout, Only Silence Remains, or River Flows in Spring, whichever one again has higher superimposition. Next, for relics, we're gonna go with a Wastelander of Banditry Desert for peace. This is gonna be for imaginary damage, crit rate, and crit damage boost. And planar ornaments are gonna be Inner Salsoto to peace for a little bit more crit rate, and for that follow-up attack boost. For his body, you're gonna go for either crit damage or crit rate, whichever one you're missing. If you have Sleep Like the Dead, I would suggest you go with crit rate. Boots, controversial opinion. You don't need energy regen on him. The only DPS that I can think of where you're gonna need energy regen is Argenti, so. Oh, the sphere! That's the other thing I forgot to write. That's gonna be imaginary damage. Okay. Now the other option I have for you is going to be E0 S1 or E1 S0. So either you went for his light cone or you just went for his Eidolon. Here's what you're gonna do. At this point, obviously, you're gonna use the best light cone you have, his signature or the other options I've mentioned so far. But instead of going Wastelander of Banditry Desert for peace, I think you would be better off with two-piece with Ash Blazing Grand Duke. This is because both the light cone and his E1 are going to give you a 20% increase on crit damage, and this is also what you would get from the second effect of 4-piece Wastelander of Banditry. And I think at that point, just adding variety to the percentage of buffs that you have, I think that would be better. The rest is pretty much the same. Probably crit rate instead of crit damage, maybe? Especially if you have his light cone, you're probably gonna need more crit rate than crit damage because the light cone gives a lot of crit damage. He's a pretty easy to build character, quite straightforward, I think. Nothing too complicated. So between his E1 or his light cone, because that's really what it comes down to, right? It's not even about do you pull him or not? You have him. But between his E1 and his light cone, go for the light cone. If you want to go for it, I can't tell you not to, and I would tell you to. Now, the harmony units that are good for him, Run is really good. Run Mei is actually gonna be really good as well. I'm thinking like a character like Welt. If you have Run Mei, she will buff more than one person at once. Super practical, we kind of stand. If you have Welt and Dr. Ratio, you're gonna be using skills a lot. So maybe Run Mei is the better option just because she's so skill point positive. Ting Yun as well, gonna be a great option for energy regen. Just so that you can use his ultimate a little bit more often. It's not like a central part of his kit, but it is quite practical and quite cool. What's fun with Yukong is as soon as she's on the field, she has a trace where she's going to increase imaginary damage for everyone. It's just Yukong is a bit more of a finicky character to work with because you have to really adjust her speed to whoever you're trying to buff. So I find the other three more practical, but any one of the first three is going to be great. And if you only have Yukong, you can also go for Yukong. When it comes to the actually important part of his kit, the debuffing. These are my top 3 picks. So Welt, obvious choice, also imaginary, so he's going to cause imprisonment. All in all, he can cause 3 debuffs really easily, which is what we need. The other one who's going to be really good is Silver Wolf, because all she does is apply debuffs. Every time she attacks, she has a chance of inducing a debuff. With her skill, she's going to lower all type res, and she's going to add a weakness, and when she attacks again, she's going to maybe put another debuff, and when she attacks again, she's going to put another debuff, and then you might use her ultimate, and that's going to shred defense. And at this point, you're like loaded on debuffs. That's great. She's a great unit. What's fun with Gwynaifen is if you have her on E1, she can do a total of 3 debuffs. She's gonna do Burn, she's gonna do Fire Kiss, and she's going to do an effect Res Reducement with her E1. So that's great. And that's the important thing to remember. DOT does count, stacks of DOT don't. So if you have like wind shear 1, it's gonna count as 1. If you have wind shear 3, it's gonna count as 1. If you don't have any of the characters I just mentioned, here's other options. We have Pela. The other person you could use is Luca, who has a solid chance of inflicting bleed and a solid chance of increasing damage taken by targets. So Sempo going to do the wind shear and going to do increased DOT damage. Not the best unit, not gonna lie, for Dr. Ratio. If you have no other option, maybe go with another team, but if you have no other option, like, he's here. Any one of these three with the ensnared light cone, if you have it, additional debuff, it's gonna be great. What I mean by the ensnared light cone is Luca's signature light cone. It's whenever you hit an enemy, if they're not already ensnared, there's a chance to put ensnared on them, and it decreases their defense, which is great. We love a defense shred. I would recommend this one on Gwenaifen, especially if you have her on E1 already, because then she could do 4 debuffs. And the more debuffs, the more damage. The more damage, the more knowledge. And the more knowledge, the happier the man is. Another team that's gonna work is one with Topaz. If you wind up with this team over here, you're gonna have like a lot of skill points being used. I would maybe swap Welt out for like Ron May. This can work. This can be great. Other characters that are Nihility, I said what I said. Other characters that work with DOT that you may be tempted to put with him, since I mentioned DOT counting as a debuff, but that you shouldn't, are Kafka and Serval. He's not a DOT guy. You're really aiming for that 3 debuff capacity, or at least 2 if you're in like a bad spot, but this is neither of them. All in all, should you build him? Because it's not about whether or not you should pull for him. You have him, but is he worth spending your resources? I think he is. If you have Welt or Silverwolf, most definitely. And especially if they're both characters that you like to use. If you have a good debuff character you can use, then do it. Build him. Free 5-star. Who cares? Life's great. And even if you don't have his signature light cone, at the end of the day, like, yeah, he's follow-up attack oriented, but he is also just a DPS character. He works off of attack. Give him attack, he's gonna be strong. Give him crit rate and crit damage, he's gonna be super strong. He is not bad because free. This is not Genshin. I like to troll. I like to twist the knife in the wound. He does this! He does this! With his technique. He's like, let me know what are your theories on why they chose to make him free. I think it's because they knew it couldn't be Ron May, but also they knew Penacony was coming up, and so they were like, it's gonna be a lot of new characters, that's gonna be really exciting. We can't make any of them free, we're gonna lose out on money, let's go with this guy that you like meet on Herda Space Station. It's really like confusing why he's there. Thank you for watching, hope this was helpful. If not, don't let me know. What's done is done. Subscribe for more, even though it's a bad light cone for him, and RedVyren out. RedVyren out for real, for real. Lights out. I'm gonna me. That's where RedVyren is at.